Sunday morning, November 11th, 2018, Calvin Castine at the American Legion Post 20 home here on Quarry Road in Plattsburgh. It's not quite 10:30 a.m., but there's a large crowd already gathered here for the 11 o'clock ceremony. It's particularly poignant Veterans Day observation, as this is the 100th anniversary of the signing of the armistice that ended World War I back in 1918. And it happened at the 11th hour of the 11th month, on the 11th day of that month. So 11/11/11 is always an important time for veterans, and ceremonies from throughout the whole nation, and I know in Canada they have the same situation, all taking place at the exact same time. I've mentioned many times over the past that when I worked at Sheridan Company in Champlain, later Harris Graphics, and Jack Zerlo was the plant manager, when the 11th hour rolled around, all the machines shut down. It was no small task to restart those machines, but at 11/11 on the 11th, the machines shut down at 11 a.m. November 11th every year. So that hour, of course, from my high school days, my school days, was always an important time to remember. Unfortunately, a lot of the secular and non-veteran community has gotten away from that. I have complained several years ago about a soccer game taking off at 11 o'clock, scheduled for 11 o'clock on Veterans Day. There's no reason why they couldn't have scheduled that for 11:15. I caught heck from the section officials at that time, but to my knowledge that has not happened since. So I'm here because Gordy Little and I covered Post 20 for a good number of years. Sam Castine would cover the North Country for us. Then Sam Castine wasn't available anymore, so I covered the Northern Tier, and Gordy would come here and carry on our tradition of covering the Veterans Day ceremonies at Post 20. Gordy, of course, died in 2016, so in 2016 and 2017 we were unable to be here. However, today Judy Castine, this being a Sunday, has agreed to cover the Rouse's Point American Legion Post 9/12 ceremony, so we will have coverage of our home base in the Northern Tier, and it frees me up to be here for 1 hour. I've got other commitments that will take me out of here, so from 11 till 12 I will be here. Hopefully most, if not all, the ceremony will be completed at that time, but a little forewarning that when noontime comes, I'm going to have to head out other obligations that important for my family. So we're here for an hour of this ceremony, and hopefully, as I said, that would be sufficient to cover what's happening here today. So, 100th anniversary of the armistice that ended World War I, Veterans Day, 2018.
Maybe you're a comedian. But it didn't make me leave
Couldn't make it today, had to work. So we plan at least yeah, probably.
Good morning. Today is the 100th anniversary when the world first heard. It is the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, which is now known as Veterans Day, where we pay our respects and honor to all our veterans. They saw, they came, they answered. Many paid the ultimate price. Duty, honor, God, country. To all our veterans, thank you for your service. Honor Guard. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor Guard, post the colors. The Plattsburgh Band will now lead us in the national anthems. God, our eternal Father, as we gather here in humble recognition of your divine providence, we beseech you to usher into our world of confusion and doubt the peace and tranquility which alone can come from you. Bless and protect our nation. Be merciful to our honored dead, the memory of whose valor, courage, and heroism inspires us to noble action and to eternal vigilance in the preservation of our priceless liberty and of our inalienable rights to enduring happiness. Guide and direct our minds to a thorough understanding of our duties to you, to our country, and to one another. Awaken in our hearts the desire and the will to accomplish the ideals for which this country exists, so that our determination and endeavor there may emerge a better world, founded upon faith and understanding, dedicated to preserving the individual rights and liberties of man, a world of tolerance and justice, intent on loving and serving you, our Lord and Master. Amen. Our commander will now give us a welcoming.
First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for being here. I'd like to thank the band for showing up today on this Veterans Day, giving up their weekend. I know how it is for young people to do that today, to give up their weekends. I'd like to welcome Colin Reed, the city Plattsburgh mayor, Michael Cashman, town of Plattsburgh supervisor. I'd like to say one other thing about Michael Cashman. He was instrumental in helping the town of Plattsburgh become a Purple Heart community. We just did the ceremony of it 1619, what, a week and a half ago? So the town of Plattsburgh has been recognized as a Purple Heart community. With this being the 100th anniversary of Armistice Day, or Veterans Day as we call it now, I'd like to acknowledge individual get out here in the audience. Thaddeus Booth Trudeau. His grandfather was one of the founding members of the American Legion Post 20. He's part of the founding members of the American Legion when the Legion was formed, which was 100 years ago, which our World War I veterans came up with the idea of an American Legion, having a wartime entity that would honor all of our veterans. So if you could stand up, Thaddeus, real quick. He is a great-grandson. Grandfather is also a POW, who's also a member of this post. With that, I will turn it over to Brenda Lewis, right? It's going to be our next. Brenda Lewis is our auxiliary president, and I want to make sure we acknowledge our auxiliary here. And also, I want to make sure we acknowledge the Sons of our American Legion also. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome, veterans, distinguished guests, family, and friends. When trying to come up with a short speech for Veterans Day, I received a post on Facebook, of all things, from a fellow auxiliary sister. Jerry is her name, and she is a great help to this organization. Jerry, where are you? Over here. Jerry. Upon reading it, I thought, bam, there's your speech. So I'm going to share this post with all of you, and I'm sure you'll see why I felt it was worth sharing. It read, ever wonder why Veterans Day is on the 11th and does not change? World War I ended on the 11th month, on the 11th day, on the 11th hour. Today I saw a man selling poppies. stop a lady and asked if he could reposition her poppy. While doing so, he told that lady she should wear the poppy on her right side. The red represents the blood of all those who gave their lives. The black represents the mourning of those who didn't have their loved ones return home. And the green leaf represents the grass and crops growing and future prosperity after the war destroyed so much. The leaves should be positioned at 11 o'clock to represent the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, the time World War I formally ended. He was worried that younger generations wouldn't understand this, and his generation wouldn't be around much longer to teach them. And I brought a future generation with me today, my granddaughter Ava, because I want her to learn what Veterans Day is all about. And I feel that's very important, especially today. So I hope this information you received today you will share with others so that future generations will know why Veterans Day is celebrated across this great nation of ours. Thank you.
Now we'd like to recognize the Sons of the Legion. We have a representative. Sons of the Legion? Please stand, please. And your name?
Bob Parker.
Bob Parker. Welcome, Bob Parker, Sons of the Legion. Did any of our Canadian friends show up? I don't know if it's still snowing up north or what. Dog sleds are out, I guess. But anyway, on behalf of our Canadian friends who are not here, they are always an integral part of our ceremony, and it's just too bad that they couldn't make it down. And now we will hear a rendition from the Plattsburgh High School Band, America the Beautiful. Don Rushford will now render the governor's proclamation.
Governor's Proclamation. Whereas each November the country sets a day aside to honor, a date to honor all men and women who served in our nation's military, to express our gratitude for their bravery and contribution in times of war and peace. Whereas originally celebrated as Armistice Day to commemorate the end of World War I, America now observes this day as Veterans Day, paying tribute to the soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marine, and Coast Guard members who help defend our nation's border and protect and promote the values of freedom and democracy around the world. And whereas the history of our country's military is steeped in valor, service, and sacrifice from the valiant patriots who fought for our independence in the American Revolution, solidifying their liberty in the War of 1812, to all of the courageous individuals that have since worn the uniform of our American armed forces and served both sides of the globe, including those who served in both World War I, World War II, Korea, Southeast Asia, the Persian Gulf, and other areas of the world, and those who today are returning from Iraq and Afghanistan. Whereas from those earliest revolution years to the veterans of present day, all these men and women are united by a common thread of honor, deep devotion for their country, and to ensure every individual's right to liberty, life, and the pursuit of happiness. And whereas we solemnly express our gratitude to all veterans who are no longer with us now, recognizing that our state and our nation and our world would be far different today without their selfless service and sacrifice. And whereas we recognize the approximately 19,602,000 veterans who are thankfully alive and still with us, and who deserve the highest admiration and respect from every American who enjoys the privileges, rights, and foundations safeguarded by those heroic men and women. And whereas all New Yorkers are extremely proud that nearly 747,150 veterans currently call the Empire State their home, and we are honored that many of these former servicemen continue to contribute to our veterans community, the military community, and our greater society. And whereas on this day and every day, remember all that our veterans have given to us, our country, and other nations, nor will we ever forget what American men and women in uniform are continuing to do to preserve and advance the cause of freedom, the foundation of life that would not exist without our veterans, to whom we have a debt that can never be fully repaired. Now, therefore, I, Andrew Cuomo, Governor of the State of New York, do hereby proclaim November 11th, 2018 as Veterans Day. There's a seal under my hand and privacy seal of the City of New York and the capital city of Albany, this 19th day of October in the year 2018, and signed Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Bill Long will now lead us in the American set.
Malfunction. Tape moved and my notes are gone. Sorry.
All right, Bill. Sorry you blew a gasket there, Bill. this time in the program, this is an integral part of the program whereby we pay tribute to all of our fallen comrades, the laying of the wreaths, which will be conducted by the Unit 20 American Legion Ladies Auxiliary.
We'd first like to present our Civil War wreath presented by Don Rushford. The World War I wreath by Bill Cosgrove. World War II wreath by Charles Smith. Korean War wreath by J.P. DeMars.
Boy, Charlie.
The Vietnam War by Fred Woodward. I'm sorry, I guess I missed the Korean War. Lebanon and Grenada, Carl Duford. Panama, Joe McNichols. Desert Storm by Scott Johnston. Iraq Freedom by Randy Trombley. Afghanistan by Joe Patnode. MIA POW by Thaddeus Booth Trudeau. Gold Star Mothers by Marion Downs. Post 20 by Joe Patnode, Commander. Unit 20, Auxiliary President Brenda Lewis. Disabled Veteran Herman Gillette. Daughters of the American Revolution, Daughters of the American Revolution, Darlene Eldridge. '40 and 8 by Dick Hines. Sons of the American Legion, Post 20, Greg DeMars. Tuskegee Airman, Anthony Lee.
Worry about all the noise.
And VFW Post 125, Dick Hines. Thank you all.
Please stand.
Anytime.
Order, arms. Take ready to fire. Got the arms. Fire. Ready? Fire. Ready? Fire. Breathe that. Fire. Forward. Forward.
At this time, we'd like to introduce Olin Reed, the mayor of the city of Plattsburgh. Colin?
Just a couple of words. You know, it's been 100 years since we ended the war to end all wars. In Canada, they call this day Remembrance Day, many of you know. I think we just need to look at these wreaths to just really remember just how hard it is and the sacrifices we make to preserve freedom. And apparently, judging by the number of wreaths there, I think that we're going to be continuing to do that for an awful long time. So thank you all for your service in allowing this to happen.
Thank you, Mayor. Next in line is the Town of Plattsburgh Supervisor, Michael Cashman. One thing before Mike gets up here, he has been on the North Country Honor Flight. The last flight that took off this year, he was a trainee. However, next year, the first flight out in May, he will be a flight leader for the North Country Honor Flight. For a young fella, he is the biggest advocate for the veterans there is in the North Country. And another thing he has in the progress, besides the Purple Heart, we have a Veterans Park in progress right now. And I know he'd be more than happy to share that with you. Town of Plattsburgh Supervisor Michael Cashman.
Folks, you humble me just to be in the presence of so many veterans today. For me, it's a very personal thing. My grandfather was a veteran, my sister-in-law was a Marine, but today I've been reflecting on one individual that is no longer with us, and it's an individual that many of you may have gotten to know or be inspired by, and that was Mr. Briette, who at an honor flight a couple of flights ago, in his late 90s, when the national anthem started and the flag was there, he wrestled to his feet to demonstrate that we stand for the flag. And it's individuals like him and all the individuals here that continue to inspire me every single day. And to the next generation that comes behind me and the folks that are in the band, we have a moral and ethical responsibility to continue to let the stories be told, to be attentive of our flag, and attentive of the American story. This region goes back to the American Revolution, and we have had folks serve in every single conflict and situation thereof. That is why the town of Plattsburgh considers every day Veterans Day. From the Purple Heart Town, the first one north of Albany, to introducing the Hometown Heroes banners, to the new park that we're working on. We look forward to continuing to celebrate our veterans of past and those folks that are serving us today. God bless you, God bless America, and most of all, God bless our veterans. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. Now we have Billy Jones. He is on a short leash because he's been bouncing around. I think this is his third ceremony. Assemblyman Billy Jones.
Thank you, and I do apologize for being a little late. I was at a ceremony, a couple of ceremonies earlier in the day. But I just want to echo the remarks that have already been made. We can never do enough to thank what our veterans do for us. And like I always say, on every Veterans Day, let's not just thank a veteran today. Let's make it a habit to thank a veteran every single day for all that they have done for our country and the sacrifices they have made. I'd be remiss in my remarks if I didn't mention my favorite veteran, my little sister, Kelly. She serves in the Air Force, and at 18 years old, like many thousands of people across this country, young men and women, she left her home, her family, her safe environment in little old Chateaugay, New York, and went off to serve her country. And it's not a unique story, because thousands of men and women do that and have done that, past and present. They do it for us. They do it to protect our freedoms. They do it so we can assemble here safely and honor them as well. So I don't think it should ever go unnoticed what our veterans do. They're in our communities. They do so much. They're usually volunteering in a fire department or in a little league or doing whatever we need to do. It was funny, I was at an event yesterday and in Constable, a little town in Franklin County, and they were having a little trouble getting the groups together. They wanted to do the 21-gun salute, and they were trying to hodgepodge certain groups together from Constable and Chateauguay and Malone, and I said, oh, you guys, you're all right, because they were going to go out and do their ceremony, and one of the veterans who I know very well turned around and said, we'll get it done. And that's what our veterans do. They get the job done. So we should always honor and thank them every day. And my little girl's right over there. She was here last year at this ceremony, and I think it's extremely important that we bring our children, like Michael said, and show them what veterans do and show them how we respect and honor them. And we need to continue to do that. Thank you very much. God bless our veterans. God bless America.
Congresswoman Elise Stefanik sends her best wishes. She was unable to be here today. However, we do have one of her representatives, Joel Wood. He's her New York State representative for Elise Stefanik. Joel? Welcome.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Joel Wood. I'm the Regional Director for Congresswoman Elise Stefanik in her Plattsburgh District Office. The Congresswoman does send her regrets that she cannot be here today in person, but she does want to thank the American Legion Post 20, the auxiliary, and all of the wonderful organizations that are here today for all that you have done and continue to do for our nation's veterans. The Congresswoman has the distinct pleasure of representing a congressional district that has the most veterans in all of the New York State congressional districts. Since entering office, she and her office have helped recover over $2.8 million in VA benefits for veterans that they have rightfully earned and deserve. The Congresswoman looks forward in the 116th Congress to continue to work with her colleagues to pass and support legislation that will assist our veterans and military families. And she would like to, from the bottom of her heart, thank all of those in attendance today who have served and their families for supporting them. So thank you.
Thank you very much. At this point, we'd like to bring up our guest speaker. His bio is on the back of the programs. 26-year veteran, retired Air Force Chief Master Sergeant Mike Wayne, 26 years with the medical field, and right now he's putting some of that medical stuff to use because he's rehabbing the airplanes over on Lewis Park. So anyway, welcome, Mike.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to all you fellow veterans, our distinguished guests, and let's celebrate a very important day. I'd like to share with you today some reminiscences of a veteran serviceman's motto of duty, honor, and country. A sacred motto that's inscribed in the coat of arms of West Point and literally chiseled into each and every West Point cadet, as well as just about every officer and NCO within the United States services. This is a very special occasion. This is the 100th anniversary of the conclusion of World War I. And these perspectives are such that I accrued over a 26-year career in the medical service of the United States Air Force, concluding here at Plattsburgh in 1989. Today, far too many of our civilian countrymen fail to adequately recognize and fully appreciate the commitment of service members and their families that they make to this nation through their voluntary military service. Today's frequent family separations, assignment moves, and overseas accompanied and unaccompanied tours, the pay sacrifices, and the very significant stresses that our families are frequently and often put under are not fully appreciated in many respects. Shortly after completion of basic training and medical service fundamentals in 1963, I arrived at my first assignment early in December of '63, immediately following the assassination of President Kennedy. Little did I realize that in the first 6 months of my Air Force service, I would spend changing diapers. However, I did find some degree of retribution and satisfaction when one of my very first patients was my recruiter. And I took some satisfaction one day in being able to administer a injection of propane penicillin posteriorly to that recruiter. So began my career in the medical service. I saw duty twice overseas, in England and in Iceland. And as a young airman, I was one of but a few who had the very distinct privilege to fly in the Air Force. I flew as an Air Force rescue helicopter medic, and I also worked in many different sized medical functions throughout my career. From small 1 or 2 man medical aid stations supporting radar site personnel, both here on the east coast of the United States as well as on the southeast coast of Iceland. I managed several inpatient nursing units and emergency room crews. I managed medical clinics and scores of enlisted medical personnel. I also, in the final years of my career, I wore the diamond of the hospital first sergeant here at Plattsburgh, and I have achieved the rank of Chief Master Sergeant. My most profound memories of military honor are those associated with military funerals and the loss of fellow military members. I arrived in England in January 1965, and on that very first weekend, I traveled to London with a couple of fellow medics to stand vigil outside the residence of Winston Churchill. And I returned but 2 weeks later to witness a profoundly moving farewell that all of Great Britain and members of the Commonwealth afforded him in his passing. I was never so impressed as by this profound honor that each British service member accorded the passing gun carriage bearing the casket of Sir Winston. In a very clockwork, slow motion effort, each service member came from present arms to slowly inverting their weapon, resting the barrel down on their right toe of their boot, and then at the same time slowly crossing both hands, palms down, resting on the butt of the rifle. They bowed their heads in passing upon their crossed hands as the casket passed. This was an incredibly moving display of respect and honor that I will never, ever forget. Later in my career, I performed the honorable duty of escort officer for a fallen fellow medic, with whom I served in England, accompanying him to his final resting place in Iowa. I also led the military funeral detail for a fellow WAF, Women's in the Air Force medic, who lost her life in a very tragic automobile accident in Utah. And I can share with you that and believe that there is absolutely no greater expression of honor than to present the flag of our nation to the closest family member of a fallen military member. Other personal memories, honorable moments were I piloted a C-47, built the same year I was born, crossed the English Channel back to our air base in England. I had the opportunity to meet Major General Charles Sweeney, the pilot of Boxcar, the B-29 that dropped the Nagasaki A-bomb. I served as the NCO in charge of the Kennedy Ward at Otis Air Force Base, where Jackie Kennedy in 1968 gave birth to and lost their son Patrick in 1962. I had the opportunity to provide much of the narration for an Air Force Now film on life and duty at a remote Air Force radar station in Iceland. And in 1976, upon the first week at the Air Force Academy, I had a very distinct honor of witnessing the first women cadets arrive at the Bring Me Men gate of the Air Force Academy. I had the opportunity to both meet and provide care to General Chappie James, the Air Force's first black four-star general. And in the very final years of the World War II veterans of the Tokyo, General Billy Doolittle, his memorial ceremony that was conducted for the remaining members of the Doolittle Raid at the Academy's Arnold Hall. And for my final years at the Academy, I had the distinct honor to be called upon to chaperone General Curtis LeMay on one of his wheelchair visits, because he was quite infirmed at that time, around the Academy to various seminars where he addressed the Air Force cadets and future leaders of the Air Force. And finally, I achieved the Senior NCO of the Year award at the Air Force Academy in 1980, and was also a nominee to the Air Force Academy, or the Air Force Association's 12 Outstanding Airmen of the Year. Quite the honor. So I say to you, honors and opportunities to honor our military past abound within the service of your country. Throughout my career, I strove to represent my country and branch of service in the very best exemplary manner, whether to the British or the Icelandic nationals that I worked with in a daily basis, or when on display at air shows, or contact with the civilians in either of those countries during my off-duty times. Whenever I traveled overseas, I always made it a point to interact with the local nationals. Perhaps one of the most remarkable instances that happened 2 years ago, when up popped on a Facebook website a picture from nearly 50 years ago of the rescue helicopter that I was flying in 500 feet above the Thames River, with Big Ben, the Houses of Parliament, Westminster Cathedral in the background. I still don't know, and many people who have seen this still don't know at who or what took that picture, because it was never attributed. But I can honestly say that day there was only one helicopter that was flying at that occasion and on that date. And for me, it was an incredible opportunity to revisit a very, very special instance. So in conclusion, I urge you, as former service members, to cherish and honor your special service memories, attribute or associated with duty, honor, and country, and to share with them, share them with your family and friends. I'd like to thank you for the special opportunity to relive these memories and to share them with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Michael, for your kind words and your 26 years of service. Before we continue, I'd like to make an announcement, which is really worthy that everybody listen up. It's concerning the wreaths across America. It's on the 15th of December, and last year was the third year that they laid wreaths to all 260,000 eligible graves. Last year was the fourth year they have laid wreaths at the eligible graves of the Old Post Cemetery. Watch the paper for local leaders.
Sorry, I meant to say Arlington. The first one, that was Arlington, all 260,000.
260,000 graves at Arlington. Anyway, thank you very much, Scott. And anybody that wants to make a donation to Wreaths Across America, VFW Post 309 in Peru is bird dogging out for the local area. All right, at this time, we would like to thank our special guests, Mayor Colin Reed, Joel, the West Stefanic's representative, Michael Cashman, and then we got Billy Jones and Mike. Now we'd like to make a special presentation to Brenda. Brenda, would you please come forward? Presentation, I will read it and the commander will make the presentation. The American Legion Post 20 gives a certificate of appreciation to Auxiliary Post number 20 President Brenda Lewis. This certificate of appreciation is greatly presented in a recognition and sincere appreciation for your volunteer work and time, which has contributed to the advancement of the American Legion programs and activities dedicated to God and country. Presented on behalf of the American Legion Post 20, Department of New York, this 11th day of November, 2018. Brenda and her group go above and beyond.
Group, too.
I said group first, Brenda. Brenda is afraid I'm going to give her too much acclamation. That's okay. You can stand taller, Brenda.
Okay, I need that.
Okay. Michael? I'll read this. The American Legion Post 20 Certificate of Appreciation to Chief Master Sergeant Michael Wayne, retired USAF. This certificate of appreciation is gratefully presented in recognition of sincere appreciation of your volunteer work and time, which contributed to the advancement of the American Legion programs and activities dedicated to God and country. Presented on behalf of the American Legion Post 20, Department of New York, this 11th day of November 2018. Congratulations. Thank you very much. I was just reminded that Irving Briette, 99 years old, passed away, and his wake is this afternoon. I think it's at Brown Funeral Home.
Yeah.
from 2 to 5, something like that. Anyway, Irving was one of the oldest remaining veterans that we have, other than Smitty, I don't know.
Love to dance.
He had the best feet in the world. Every time he heard music, he would be up dancing. When he was 98, he was still dancing. He had a twinkle in his eye that never left. And he was an advocate for the military, I can tell you that. Yes.
All right, I'd like to say one more thing. Got a little choked up when I introduced Thaddeus over there. Thaddeus was in the Civil Air Patrol when I was a member. I'm also a member of the Civil Air Patrol and I was a commander for a while. I watched him grow through the years. He ended up getting out as a cadet, as a cadet chief master sergeant, and now he is one of my senior members that's still attached to us. So in case anybody's wondering why, I've watched him grow over the years. So it's kind of exciting to see him here now. He's going to college now. So also with that, I'd like to talk about the American Legion a little bit. I'm also the Clinton County Commander for the American Legion, along with the Post Commander, and I am also the membership chair for the 4th District. So I'm going to make a pitch on membership. The American Legion, we have, we have 4 pillars: veterans, defense, Americanism, and youth. These are our 4 pillars of the American Legion. This is what we stand for. And unfortunately, in the past year, we had dropped below 100,000 members. And we have a very large veteran group upstate New York. And across the state of New York, we have gone below 100,000 members, which is going to be a sad thing to see the American Legion depleting, being that we are at 100 years of Armistice Day or Veterans Day. And the World War I veterans are the one that started the American Legion. So I would love to see people get involved, get people to join up, recruit. If you see a veteran and they're not a member, send them my way. I'll be more than happy to talk to them. Steve Bowman, Bob St. John, we have lots of members here that would be willing to talk to these people to get them to join the American Legion and why they should be a member of the American Legion. Because these are the 4 pillars that we stand on. A lot of people get confused. They think the bar is the American Legion. The bar is not the American Legion. I know it's got a bad rap over the years, but we're trying to get away from that stigma that's out there. But you gotta remember, please pay your dues. Please support what we're doing. Billy Jones is sitting there looking at us. Assemblymen sitting there looking at us. Where numbers are dwindling. It's hard for us to push legislation towards them. They're looking at numbers.
Not for me.
But it's easier to get things for our veterans. I mean, the American Legion is the ones that got the college funds that we've gotten. The GI Bill was originally done by the American Legion. The post 9/11 GI Bill was also a outtake of the American Legion. And now they have the Forever GI Bills. For anyone that's got kids that are looking to go to college, you can use some of this money towards them even. So there's a lot of things we have with the American Legion that people should get involved with. And that's all I've got to say.
Thank you, Joe. We need the membership. If you know a veteran, get them to sign up. We'd hate to see the doors close. Really. It took a lot of people to get this charter. We'd hate to see the 4 doors on this place closed. Up here, in the back, upstairs.
Any door from any legion we hate to see closed. We've actually closed 2 American Legions in the past 4 years in Clayton County.
So if you know a vet, send them our way. We're more than happy to talk to them. And at this time in the program, we'd like to have the band perform Balladeer. What an outstanding job. Stand up. We want to give you guys a special thank you.
As we said at the start, we have obligations that we have to be at. We had to leave just before the final moments, and we were walking up the stairs. We did hear Tom calling our name. Apologize, Tom Nagalski, but I have other places I have to be, family obligations, and so we covered as much as we could here, and I appreciate Judy Castine covering the Veterans Day ceremony in Rouse's Point at Post 912. Thanks for watching and supporting viewer-supported local television, Hometown Cable. TV we think is worthy of your support, and we hope we'll be able to continue our programming into the future. Thanks for watching.